Hello, everypony, and welcome to Brony Spotlight. And today we have a very special episode, as today we're interviewing one of my personal favorite writers on fiction. He's written numerous fanfics, most notably Past Sins and its amazing side stories. His name is Penstroke, and I cannot tell you how excited I am to have him here. First off, Penstroke, how are you doing, man?
I am doing really good. Thank you for asking.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have you here. Just got a couple questions here for you. First off, we're going to start with the age-old question that has plagued bronies for years and years.
Oh, plagued them, huh? Oh, well.
Who is
I
best
don't know if I can end plagues, but... Oh, but who is best pony?
Who is best pony?
Who is best pony? Well, I have an answer for this. I do.
Okay.
But it is not a straightforward answer because I will. It's like they're all such wonderful little ponies.
Yes.
Such wonderful little ponies. But of the main six, my favorite is Applejack.
Okay. Any particular reason why?
It's always that answer of, oh, I can relate to her a bit more, because even though I'm currently living in the LA area, I grew up in Wyoming on a farm.
All right.
And I have a work ethic that will drive me nuts sometimes, because I usually like to be doing something. It's like, cannot just chill. Cannot just chill. So, and it's like, I think Applejack might share in that of, it's like, just plain chilling out and not doing anything, like Rainbow Dash just taking naps in the middle of the day. Doesn't seem her style. But, it's like, yeah, Applejack's for the main six, and then for background ponies, Zecora.
All right.
It's just like rhyming. It's rhyming, all the timing and all that stuff. And she's a character of mystery. We don't know anything about her right now, and when we find out stuff about her, I imagine the show will make it so it's, oh, she's even more awesome now that we know more about her. But for right now, she is the mayor of mystery.
Okay. I always figured as a writer that that writers normally don't like Zecora, or at least don't like writing for her.
I got tried by fire because I'm part of a Skype group where I had to write a bunch of lines for Zecora, and so it's like I kind of got practiced.
Yeah.
I got practiced.
Well, I guess my next question is, how exactly did you get into the fandom and writing pony fiction?
We can blame other people for that, but then usually you can blame other people for pulling you into things. When I was doing my senior year of my bachelor's degree at my university, some of the other people on my Final Games project team started talking about the pony, and it's like, no, dude, try it. And so I rented the first episode on iTunes, or bought it, or whatever. I did something with iTunes,
Okay.
which is a fun fact later that can be an antidote for Past Sins, but it's like I watch it, it's okay, that was cool, I'll watch the next one, and I'll watch the next. It's like, it's the common symptoms. It is literally like you put it in a medical textbook, the symptoms of Brony. It's like, watches one episode, then another, then realizes they're halfway through the season one before. It's like season one was still airing at the time, so I caught up, and then I was going play-by-play with everyone else, but yeah, that's what got me into that, and what got me into writing is I had actually been writing previously to that. In middle school, I did some fan fiction writing under another name. No one will find out. You may torture me. You may waterboard me. I'm not telling you. Nope. Because I think that's when I got all my bad fan fictions out of my system. So don't need anybody going back and looking at that and going, oh my god, it was horrible. And then during high school, I tried my hand at some original things. It's like there's a 300,000 words, something or other laying around on my hard drive that has been seen only by close family. And then college, my writing kind of dropped off, and then ponies came up, and oh my god, ponies! They brought back the writing.
So you'd come
Yes.
a pretty long way when you started writing Past Sins.
Yeah, it's like even within the community, I had already put out 2 stories, which was Better Living Through Science and Ponies and Creeping Darkness.
Well, so let's start talking about Past Sins. What was the toughest aspect of writing such a big story?
People probably would hate me for the answer I'm about to give, but it wasn't the fact that it was long.
Okay.
It was because, like, for those who don't know, Nyx originally came from Creeping Darkness. She was a plot device in there that only showed up for a couple chapters, but it was kind of like the a brain slug from Futurama that kind of attached my. It's like, this is an idea. You like this idea? Write more on this idea. Do it. Do it. Do it. And I did it. And so there were times when I was ramming my head against the story. It's like that's always going to happen when you're working a story, and it's like the longer the story, the more likely there's going to be parts where you need to kind of hit your head against it and try different things. But it's just like the majority of the original draft of Past Sins was written in a very short amount of time. It's like if I had saved it for a few months, it could have been my national right. It could have easily let me complete triumphantly the national National Novel Writers Month or something. I forget what the proper term is for it.
All right.
But
Well, what about writing some more of the darker undertones that you did? Like, for a couple examples, like the cult that wanted to bring back Nightmare Moon. A few scenes in the later chapters, they definitely.
you're trying to avoid spoilers.
Yes,
I can tell.
I am trying to avoid spoilers. Like I said, this is like I said to you earlier. This is for a bunch of the show is about people who are new to the fandom, so I am trying to
Yeah.
avoid spoilers for their sake. But was it difficult to write some of these darker undertones to the colorful world of ponies that we know and love?
Honestly, it isn't as difficult as one would think. It's like introducing those kind of darker tones to other children's television, like Care Bears or Strawberry Shortcake. It's hard to do that because the depth of the characters aren't there, and my cat just put his tail in my mouth. Don't you hate when that happens? It's like you're talking and the cat flips his tail in your mouth.
He's just wanting to say hi.
Yeah, hello, kitty. But it's like for those characters where there isn't the depth that we tend to find in with our ponies, then it is much more difficult. But when you have characters that seem to have depth, that are kind of like have these other ways of being viewed, perspective, and all that stuff, then it makes you feel like the world is very utopian, yes, but it could go the other way. It's like the characters could deal with it going the other way and being a bit darker because they're mature enough to do it.
Okay.
It's like I'm honestly never probably going to do anything of the super gory hacker slasher fix of Doom, but it's like the darkness I got into Past Sins, that still feels comfortable, at least to me, with the ponies.
Okay. Well, I mean, I personally enjoyed a lot of the darker undertones, and I usually credit Past Sins as being a very I guess I would like to say gateway fic, because it.
Yeah, I've had people. It's like, dude, you got me reading fan fiction. It's like, yes, I know.
Well,
I know. It's like that isn't the first time I've heard where it's like it's like it's big. It's like, and there it's like you're all always open to your opinion. Some people absolutely hate Passion. Some people think other stories are better. But at the same time, it's in a position where it's getting people to try fan fiction and realize, hey, this isn't so bad. I can go read other things.
Well, I mean, for me personally, it was the first real fic that was able to deliver what I was after in a fan fiction. It was close enough to show accurate, but threw in a few things that we know would never happen in the actual show. It came very close to show quality for me.
Yeah, well, that's always the thing about fan fiction is like it's like some fan fictions are still really good, and they are still things that could happen in an episode. I think there was a fanfic that was out before Lesson Zero that was basically the same idea as Lesson Zero, but it was still a good fic. But at the same time, it's like that's kind of why fan fiction in general exists. It allows people to kind of write the stories that they want to imagine for the characters and that they may not be able to see on the show. In particular, like things of darker theme or things of shipping themes.
Yeah.
Shipping.
I'll have to ask you about that later. But one of the more impressive things about this fic, in my opinion, was how well written all the characters were from the show, at least. Was it difficult to capture the way the main six interact with each other?
Sometimes it's always going to be a bit difficult, especially since you're putting them in situations where they're not going to react naturally. I mean, but it's at the same time you have to be willing to somewhat take your own perspective on how they would react in a given situation. Like in Past Sins, Rarity kind of shows her big sister skills more than I've seen in other fics, for example. As kind of like being one that will kind of try to stay level-headed or try to talk you down from something stupid. But it's just matter of other characters, and it's like I've been told I've had comments, I should say, where others was like, oh no, this is, they wouldn't do this, they wouldn't, just like, especially around particular characters in the story and particular events, and it's like, that's valid in your head because that's how you view the characters. Mine's valid in my head because that's how I viewed the characters. It's like headcanons, man. Headcanons that will blow your head off.
Just so happens that some people's headcanon is just like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. Headcanon accepted.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and my next question is about Nyx. So, what was your thought process around Nyx, and what really led to her creation? Like you said earlier, she was a character in Creeping Darkness, but what were you really thinking about when you were thinking to incorporate Nyx?
So if I can go all the way to back to Creeping Darkness, and it's like in that one she represented a particular aspect of Nightmare Moon. It was kind of weird dream sequencey thing, and I'm trying to talk about this without doing spoilers, since this is for people who probably haven't. It's like if you haven't read Past Sins, I'm almost 90% sure you probably haven't read Creeping Darkness, because it's like, but I just lost my train of thought a little bit. But it's like when it came down to Nyx, it's like I wanted to do a Nightmare Moon redemption story that was more than just being hit by a rainbow. And it's like that works for the show, and it worked for the fact that they had 2 episodes, and then it's unfortunate that we didn't see Luna again till season 2. but it's like Nightmare Moon's redemption is just like kind of, this is a very dark way to think about it, but it's almost like a lobotomy. It's like, oh, you're being bad. Whack with a rainbow. Now you're not bad. But I wanted to explore that a little more. But the thing is, if you're looking at Nightmare Moon for a redemption story, it's like getting her to be willing for that and explaining how she's come back into existence can be the difficult parts. It's like it's like I feel I can get away with these spoilers because this is the first chapter. This is like the first chapter of Past Sins. Absolutely. And so it's like, but it's like the resurrection spell was how Nightmare Moon came back into the world. It wasn't Luna going back to her old ways. It was treating Nightmare Moon as a separate character, where perhaps blasting her with a rainbow again would make her just disappear instead of rehabilitating her. And then, but then it's like it became a question of, well, if you just bring back Nightmare Moon, she's not going to want to be rehabilitated. She's going to fuss. She's going to try to take over. It's just, that's not going to be her priority if you bring her back perfect the way she was. And that's kind of where Nyx fits into this. I believe it's a trope. I don't know if this is the actual name for the trope, but it's what I call it. It's an amnesia reset, where it's like you take out the thing that that kind of drove the bad guy, and you let them experience what life could be the other way. And then that in itself gives them reason to want to be rehabilitated because they see the other side of the fence now.
Okay. I always found that Nyx was just so much more interesting because you had her interact more with like the CMC and the main 6, and that's always been a question in my head. It's like, why didn't you try to rehabilitate Nightmare Moon as an adult instead you turned her into a filly? Which,
well, again, it's partially because of Creeping Darkness.
Oh yeah,
you just like, it's like that's part of the context that came over from Creeping Darkness, but it's like it's just the way it ended up being. It's like you could do an amnesia reset on a full adult, and it could have probably been just as interesting of story. But it's like, why not? It's like, why or why not?
Yeah.
It's like, I wish I could give you an answer, but there's no answer for that one.
I understand. Well, along the lines of interacting with the main 6, why did you opt for a mother-daughter relationship for Twilight and Nyx? I feel like that's close enough to the beginning, so that way.
Fairly close, yeah. It's just, that's what it evolved into. Honestly, it's like you have big sister relationships, and if things had turned out slightly different in the story, perhaps, but at the same time, a big sister is one you tend to grow up with, and it's like they'll kind of bat your nose and be responsible for you and tell you kind of right from wrong a little bit, but at the same time your parents are usually more responsible for that, and the bigger sisters are sometimes the one that help you get in trouble or try to save your butt so you don't get in trouble with the parents. And for like Rarity and Sweetie Belle and Applejack and Apple Bloom, it's just their relationships make more sense that way because that's the way it's like that's their blood relationship, so that kind of sets a precedence on that. And B, that's just kind of how they act in the show is that they will try to help each other out, and it's like, and not focus so much on kind of scolding and whatnot and all that things. It's like Apple Bloom, she's still got, it's like for Apple Bloom, Applejack is a sister, but she's still kind of a mother figure, but at the same time Apple Bloom has another mother figure in Granny Smith. And it's like there is a more mature adult in that situation that will probably lower the boom on all of them very willingly if they don't do something smart. But for Nyx and Twilight, it was just Twilight was the one that had to scold Nyx. She was the one that had to kind of teach, and she was the one that made her go to school. And that's not a lot of things that your sister does. That's a lot of things your mother mother does for you.
Okay. Well, moving on. You're probably the only fanfic writer that I know that has edited a story to fit the canon of the show. What made you decide to do that?
Well, part of that was the Passins printing project. The Equestria Publications group came to me and said, "Hey, we want to make Passins into a hardcover book." It's like, okay, that and Batty Gloom, the person who's got the assisted by credit for Passin, is like, he was nibbling at my ears, like, dude, we can. It's like, it's just a few little changes and we could make this work. It's like I don't want to, but then it's like, okay, now I have a reason because the season 2 thing should be what's in the hardback, even though that didn't get out till season 3 was over. But
Yeah.
But and so it's like those were the two reasons that kind of came together at the same time. It's like, okay, let's do this, because it honestly wasn't that many changes to the thing. It's like, and it's like there are people who say, "Oh, why would you do that? Oh, don't change it." Blah, 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 blah. But it's what we decided.
Right. I mean, personally, I personally applaud you for doing so, because allows people who are getting new into fanfics, like, gives them a more recent timeline, and things make a whole lot more sense.
Yeah. And that's kind of what's been going on with some of the side stories. It's like Winter Bells was a holiday fic for the Passins universe, but at the same time it was also, here is your landmark for season 3, and here's how everything works together.
Right.
And it's like, I probably need to do one for season 4 now too. now that it's all said and done.
That would be very interesting, and I'd be very excited to read that. But that's just me.
That's just you, huh?
Yeah.
That's just you.
Well, this fic has probably been one of the most influential in the pony fanfic world, and has spawned a pretty massive fan base. I guess, how does it feel to really have such an influence on the fandom?
I think you give me too much credit.
Maybe
it's
I do. Maybe I don't.
I think the musicians and the artists honestly have more influence just because of the nature of fan fiction. It's like, oh, I spent this much time on it, which is just as much time like the artist would spend on a picture or something. But the end user takes a few seconds to appreciate a picture, or a few minutes to listen to a music, not hours to read a story. So it's like, but at the same time, I just like, medium fish in a small pond, I guess, it's like it's got its cool aspects. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, having a soundtrack for Past Sins that's partially complete but still sounds really good, having other fan music, having fan pictures, having someone who goes by Morgan Freepony doing an audiobook reading, and he has a really good that person has a really good voice too. There was another, I forget who it is right now off the top of my head, but I plugged them in a blog where they're now doing, instead of just a reading like Morgan Freepony did, but they're doing kind of a dramatic reading where they're getting different voice actors for the different characters and everything.
Yeah, I read about that actually. I actually put.
But it's like, it's all stuff that people have done voluntarily, and like the hardback printing is another example of just blows me out of the water that there were people who liked the story enough. It's like, dude, let's do this. But
I
it's very cool. I won't deny it's very cool. I mean, it has some of its downs because it's like when you get that popular, there's people who are going to hate, and they're going to hate very loudly. I mean, I've had hate art drawn. It's like it's the anti fan art. It's the hate art that was drawn. It's like there was but it just no way to avoid it.
absolutely. Um, well, personally, I mean, like I said earlier, this has probably been a gateway fanfic for a lot of people, and that's where I attribute the majority of influential. I guess that's where I attribute the word
It's like
influential
I
to.
get them before they get other headcanons.
Well, as well as past sins, you've also wrote Trinkets, Nightmare and Nyx, Winter Bells, and then released Nyx's First Hours more recently. Big question I've always wondered is why did you opt to do like all these short stories instead of do one long sequel?
Because the inspiration and ideas I had fit better into the short stories. It's like, arguably, Winter Bells is about halfway to being a full sequel, just because of its size and everything it got done. But it's like, I could have tried to integrate Trinkets and Nightmare on Nyx and Winter Bells all into one big story that spanned multiple months, but at the same time, it's just like I don't know what to fill the other months with. It's like you have one event that's happening right after the events of past sins, you have another one that's happening a little bit after that, and then you're jumping a few months to Winter Bells, which is in the winter. It's like I don't know what to fill that gap in the middle with. It's just like it worked better as a trilogy of smaller side stories.
Okay.
And the First Hours thing was an exclusive thing for the hardback book that I had. It's like I'd written it before the hardback started. Hadn't published it yet because I had people looking at it. And it's like the people at the hardback is like, "Oh, dude, that's cool. We should use that as exclusive content so that it's like it's like special edition." It's like, okay. And so that one sat around, finished but not posted to the internet for so long. But yeah, no, that one was more just kind of an exploration and a exploration of the idea and also some practice in first person.
Okay.
I think it all started because I had read somewhere kind of like the order in which your senses develop when you're a child, and it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. Can I write something to? It's like, oh, I do actually have a character that might do this. It's like it's like one idea to another, the domino effect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when Nyx's First Hours came out, I absolutely flipped when I learned that there was something new out on the horizon, because I found Past Sins well after the printing run happened, and I'm still a little bitter about that, but oh well. But I absolutely flipped when you finally released it, because I knew that you had a exclusive story to the print.
And it's like, come on.
There's content out
Give
there I
it to
don't know
me.
about, and it was driving me crazy. You mentioned something about it earlier on in the interview, but is there any future plans for the series?
There is. I'm actually currently working on something.
Ooh.
And it's like I actually alluded to it earlier, where I'm trying to work on something that will kind of also be the landmark for season 4
Okay.
to a degree. And so that's all I'll give you, so you don't get yourself worked up too much.
Aw. I was about.
Aw,
Okay.
listen to that. Aww.
Will you at least answer if Twilight Princess is explained, or do you explain how her princessdom kind of is inserted into your personal
Well,
world?
that I feel no guilt talking about, because it's just going to be the standard show thing. Because that's the one thing, is that as I looked at season 3, in like the season 3, which was accounted mostly for in Winter Bells, it's like Winter Bells was written after season 3, and even then I knew it's like I could still work with Princess Twilight. It's just I couldn't hope to ever rewrite Past Sins to include Princess Twilight, because it's like wings and all this. Is like, that would just confuse too many things.
Right.
That and having Discord reform, just like having him reform, just like the rest of the story. But it's like I don't see, it's like Nyx's presence I don't think would affect how Twilight became a princess of her own, just as it wouldn't affect a number of the other events that have occurred.
Okay.
It's like one could theorize how her presence would have augmented it slightly, like maybe the Equestria Games flag team or something, or maybe But it's like none of the stories that were told by the end of season 3 and season 4, were something that would completely contradict the idea of Nyx being there. And so it's just like let them be where they're going to be.
Okay. Well, you definitely have gotten me very hyped, so thank you for that. Last question for you. What is your personal favorite fan works from the fandom? This entire show is about exploring fan works.
Of course.
So, what are your personal favorites?
Well, one I can. I'm going to stop a second to make sure my Audacity is still working.
Okay.
Yes, okay. One it's like there are a few I recommend. I don't know how many are like gateway fix, but especially as like one of them that I usually reference as one that I enjoyed because I was able to enjoy it as it was coming out was Fallout Equestria, but that is not something someone who's just new to fantasy fiction should really go diving into. That's like someone who goes to start watching all of Doctor Who over a weekend. You're just gonna kill yourself.
Yeah.
But some of my favorites that I recall are there's a trilogy of stories called that involve like the first one is called The Turning of the Screw, the Curious Case of Button Stitch, which is an interesting twist look at where that crazy Discordy character came from. That the fandom, yes, exactly, that the fandom lovingly calls Screwball. Another one I like that's a one shot that's really fun is Tilt, where Trixie is a pinball wizard.
Okay.
One I just read today, to give you one that just came out recently as a recommendation, Obsolescence's Reflections.
Okay.
Which I think it's Reflections. Let me actually pull up FimFiction real quick, but it's on the feature bar right now, and I read that and it was really good and all that stuff. So there's always new things to come out. Upon Reflection is what his story is called.
Okay.
And now that I have FimFiction up, I can also look at some of my other favorites, so I can have a cheat sheet. Mort Takes a Holiday is good.
Okay.
Dearest Fluttershy is a nice short one that's kind of bittersweet.
Okay.
I won't recommend that one. The one I just looked at that was our crazy thing. Me and a bunch of other authors did called Pwn Murder. It was based off of the Dwarf Fortress like something murder of the same name, a similar name, where each author wrote a chapter and the only chapter they were allowed to read was the chapter before. And supposedly, for most of the story, it was actually developing into this rich, deep story. It was having twists and turns. It was turning out really awesome. Then Wanderer D happened, and it went completely nutty. And there was only two authors behind Wanderer. It was Don Scroll and myself. I was the last author, and my chapter ended up having Discord borrowing the Enterprise and Transformers. It was just
bad props for the Star Trek reference for Discord.
And I guess one more I could mention is I Ain't Got No Accent.
Okay.
Which is Applejack and Rarity focused.
Okay.
So.
Well,
whole slew of things I just threw at you.
Well, I mean, you've given us plenty to work with. Who knows? That might actually show up on an episode of Brony Spotlight. Ideas. But anyway, Penstroke.
I would definitely, if I could give him a plug, I would definitely do Obes. He's had a few really good short stories recently.
Okay. Well, Penstroke, thank you very much for being here. It's been awesome having you here. Anything you want to say to the beautiful people?
To the beautiful people,
yes.
Huh? Do I have to talk to the other ones too?
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm joking. Just like, I hope it's like if this gets you to read Pass-Ins, I hope you enjoy it. Realize it's been a few years, so if you find it somewhat lacking, as some people do, just remember, a few years old and whatnot. And other than that, you can check out some of my other stories. I've got about a dozen plus others. Some are silly, some are crossovers. It's like I have Pinkie Pie in singing songs involving Little Shop of Horror, and I'm always kind of sad about that one because that one was fun to write. But when I posted that was the same day Kit Kat K-Cat published the last chapter of Fallout Equestrian. He's like, that all the people that might have read that one just whoop go. No, we are finishing this epic, and I don't hold that against her at all. It's just like, oh. But yeah, it's like give fan fiction a chance, man. It's like just because like some of the stories are crazy, but what can you do?
Absolutely.
It's like some pictures are crazy, some music is crazy. It's just with fan fiction, the crazy becomes a bit more evident because you have to sit there and read it.
Well, that was our interview with Penstroke. Go check out all of his works. He's an amazing guy. Also, we will be linking past sins in the description to FimFiction, so go check that out definitely. Until next time, I'm Fedora Brony, and this has been our interview with Penstroke. See y'all in the next video.
Ta-ta.